Because it is never too early to talk about the NFL playoff races. It is time to look at the AFC after a whole 1 week is in the books. This is a statistical analysis. There is no bias for or against, quote, good and bad teams, unquote. And leading off in the number one spot with the highest statistical odds to make the playoffs is, of course,
We're number one. We're number one. We're number one.
the Houston Texans. The recipe to get the biggest statistical advantage after 1 week is to win. Check. They beat the Colts. Have it be a conference game. Check. Have it not only be a conference game, but a division one. Check. And then for the grand finale, have all the other teams in your division lose. Check and check. And then for the icing on the top, have the NFC take an early lead over the AFC in interconference play so that 1-0 in the AFC is more valuable than 1-0 in the NFC. So the Texans start out of the gate with a 39% chance to win the division and 56% chance to make the playoffs. With just the 1 week done, the extremely early and very fluid computer projection for wins needed to take the AFC South is between 9 and 11. The 9 being what the computer says is the minimum number to have any kind of reasonable shot, and the 11 being what should be a very safe mark. With the early targets to aim for to get a wild card being 9. Again, just 1 week down, but this will show part of what we'll be discussing throughout the season. Texans host the Bears next. So, of course, since the Super Bowl champion Chiefs are in the number one spot, let's spend a minute explaining what the heck we're doing here. As mentioned at the beginning, this is a statistical analysis without bias. No pre-programmed advantages are plugged in for, quote, good, unquote, teams or against supposed bad teams. Instead, the records, the tiebreakers, and the nuances of the remaining schedule dictate the numbers. Certainly, there are detractors for using this method. Would I personally bet that the 1-0 Chargers have anywhere near as good a chance to make the playoffs as the 1-0 Chiefs? Of course not. But with a league that only plays 17 games, where a team can go from Super Bowl favorite to also ran with one key injury, where anything can seemingly happen, Patriots 16, Bengals 10, case in point. This method lets us really get into the advantages any particular team might have with head-to-head, division, conference records, and the remaining schedule, which is a hidden influence in one team's chances that we couldn't fairly do just by saying this other team is a better team. Moving on, and once again, it cannot be stressed enough that we are just in week 2, so in most cases, the order of teams here is interchangeable, but Chargers next up, as they were the only other AFC team to notch a division win with their victory over the Raiders. That gives them statistically a 1-3 chance to win the division. I know the Chiefs fans will dispute that. Heck, I know reality will dispute that as well. But anyway, they now have a slightly better than even chances to make the playoffs. FYI, every team had a 43% statistical chance at the beginning of the season. An excellent opportunity to go 2-0 and prove the haters wrong with a game in Carolina next. Early guesses from the computer for the AFC West is the same 9 to 11 range. Next is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who beat the Falcons, which certainly wasn't a division or conference game. But their big advantage right now is they are the lone 1-0 team in the AFC North. Same estimates from the computer on winning the division. 9 wins for any kind of reasonable chance, 11 to be pretty safe. Again, just 1 week down. The Steelers, interestingly enough, don't have any division battles coming up anytime soon. Travel to Denver this week and then host the Chargers before Colts and Cowboys. Certainly, Broncos and Chargers might give them hope for a 3-0 start. Right now, 36% to win the division and 55% to make the playoffs. We'll be rather brief from here on out. Most of the teams, since it's just week 2 and there obviously isn't a lot of separation between teams to spend too much time on. We now get to the Chiefs, who put a conference win on the board by beating the Ravens. 32% statistical odds to win the division and 54 to make the playoffs. They have what appears to be not as good as we thought Bengals team up next, then the Falcons, Chargers, and Saints. None of those scream trouble, so no reason for them to not be near the top of this list for a while. Before moving on, if you are playing fantasy football and you want to analyze your own league or know where you stand before making those big roster decisions, check out the Playoff Computer app on the Play Store. It has all sorts of geeky stuff, including the NFL-style paths to clinch, so you know what matters. Next up is the Dolphins. Beat one of their Florida neighbors to join a logjam of teams on top of the AFC East. We will quickly be able to sort 2 of them next week as they host the Bills next, so someone is starting out 2-0 and challenging the Patriots for the division. Sarcasm, folks. Maybe. With 3 teams in the AFC East winning, their odds to win the division as well as the other 2 didn't tick up too much, 28% now. Slightly over even chances to make the playoffs. Having 3 teams win the opening week does put the early projections for wins needed for the division in the 10 to 12 range, one above the rest of the divisions. The Bills, after their come-from-behind win against the Cardinals, joined the 1-0 AFC East party. Few tests coming up for them. The game at Miami, then after hosting the Jaguars, go on the road for the Ravens and Texans. The Patriots off to a surprising start, having beat up the Bengals, so a valuable conference win in their pocket along with the Dolphins. Host the Seahawks next before their first division match against the Jets. We'll see if they come back to the lowered expectations the experts had for them. The Titans delivered a masterclass on how to blow a lead in spectacular fashion. The good news for them is that only the Texans won in the AFC South, and this wasn't a division or conference loss, so they have a slight technical advantage over the Jaguars and Colts in fighting to get back on track. Some more tough defenses to get through after their loss to the Bears, so they better have learned something. Jets, Packers, and Dolphins before their super early bye week. The Bengals licking their wounds after being upset by the Patriots. Some good news for them, as well as for the Ravens and Browns, as only the Steelers in the division put up a win, so only one team to play catch-up to. Jaguars with the tough loss to the Dolphins to start on the back foot. They host the Browns this week with a chance to even everything back up before some tough games on the road in Buffalo and Houston. Ravens with the conference loss down a notch, and I don't want to say any week 2 game is a must-win for anybody, but after the Raiders this week, they play Dallas, then the Bills and Bengals. I don't think they want to be 0-2 to start that stretch. Cleveland, I would say I feel your pain if I knew what it was like to pay $200 million for something that is only bringing frustration. But before crying in the nickel beer too much, take solace, it wasn't a conference game, and the next 4 are Jacksonville, the Giants, Raiders, and Commanders, all teams that started out 0-1 as well, so there is hope. Broncos lost to the Seahawks. Interesting game next against the Steelers at home. Colts, one of two teams to lose a division battle, but just the Texans to catch up to right now. 19% to win the division, touch above 1-3 to make the playoffs. Sneakily tough slate coming up. Travel to Green Bay, host the Bears and Steelers, then go to Jacksonville. In my mind, those are hard games to put a betting line on. The Jets occupying one spot up from the cellar on this list, the only AFC East team to lose, so that knocks their division odds to 16%. Same around 1-3 as the other 0-1 teams to make the playoffs. Titans, Patriots, Broncos coming up, so some winnable opportunities. Raiders bringing up the rear. The other team to lose a division game in week 1, so that puts a serious dent in their statistical chances early. 16% for the division. Get the fun of playing an upset Ravens squad this week, but then maybe a chance to turn things around early with the Panthers, Browns, and Broncos. That's it for now. As the season gets going, we will get more into the nitty-gritty of what advantages and disadvantages teams have. Enjoy your day.